Hi, welcome back to another episode of We Be Life in Pod, the podcast where we're going to talk about the highs and lows about life and what even is my life. I'm Sabina Richards, I'm your host, and today's topic is on social media versus real life. So, let's get into it. So, I do have to preface this topic and talk about during the time the pandemic was taking place and how it impacted me, but I didn't realize the extent of that impact. I was always someone who was active. I was always very active from 17, back then when you could get your ID and you can go to the various clubs and hang out. So I've always been an active person. I've been active in church. After work, there was always an after work lounge, a restaurant, dinner, brunch. I was big on movies, so I would always do movie dates. So I was really active. And the pandemic hit, and it completely changed everyone's lives. And for someone like me, who was generally an introvert, now I think I'm an ambivert, whatever the definition is. Having to work at home and then just be inside for 24 hours, 7 days a week. You didn't really have interaction with your family as much if you lived alone at the time, was challenging for me. So with that, I ended up going to social media for a lot of my free time and downtime, because during that time, I was working 24 hours, 7 days a week because of what was happening in human resources that was generally somewhat new at that level. So that's when I started becoming more involved in social media. Yes, I would post on Instagram here and there. TikTok, I didn't do anything but TikTok, really. No, I don't think I did. I think I got into TikTok around the pandemic, a little bit after. Facebook, we had Facebook from before, but I had stopped posting on Facebook and interacting on Facebook for a while. YouTube, I never even had a YouTube account. I think the YouTube app was on the phone, or I had to download it, or I went online, something like that. But because of the pandemic, I ended up getting more involved in social media. And that changed my life. I definitely became part of that culture where you get caught up in what's happening in social media and sometimes forget that individuals are not showing 100% of their life, right? So I definitely will preface with that, because what I'm going to be talking about today are things that I can speak to personally, and I'm sure that we all have experienced them or have had some type of experience with some of the topics or some of the items we're going to be talking about today, because we weren't able, well, depending on where you lived, whatever city you were in, state you were in, we weren't able to be outside as freely as we used to before. So what comes with social media, there are a couple of things that comes with being on social media and being so engrossed in social media. And it's also a part of our lives now. It's part of the norm. So there's the illusion of the feed. And I know I've gotten caught in that many times. And so here's what that entails. The illusion of the feed. This is when we often select and we curate the best posts or the best photos or the illusion of perfection to post on social media. So, and we're all guilty of this. I think all of us at some point are guilty of this, because who wants to post bad photos? Who wants to post bad experiences? I think I would say lately, maybe in the past year or two, we've been seeing more people post, oh, this is the reality, this is what they won't show you, but I'm going to show you, and things like that. There's a air of perfectionism There's always perfect. We see mainly the highlights. So there's a perfect relationship, perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect angle, perfect whatever the case may be. This time, I definitely want to take a moment and talk about how the BBL craze was happening. And no offense to anyone, so just disclaimer here, don't want to offend anyone, but this is a real topic. It's something that did impact me personally as well during this time frame, because I've always been someone, now I'm not a 00, but I've always been, well, maybe I can't say always been, but I was, okay? I was a 00 for a long time. And, during the, maybe it wasn't during the pandemic, but maybe it became heightened around that time. We saw an increase in BBLs. And I know for me, at some point at the beginning, I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. Let them do what they want with their bodies. But I still feel that it's your body. Do what you want to do with your body. That's not where this is going. This is where I'm going, still on the topic of the illusion of the feet. Because when we see the aesthetic of the hourglass figure, some of us didn't have that, okay? And that triggered some self-esteem issues that didn't even know was there, because I was fine with my little 00 frame or size 4, I was fine with that, but then just got bombarded about BBLs. And so for a while I had to just get off of that, because I'm just like, what's real? But, I would look at people and I'm like, oh my God, they look great. And I'm like, oh no, their body's fake. This is fake. That is fake. Then it became, you could tell what was fake and what was real. So at that point I said, you know what? I don't have time for this. That was also the time where we had an influx of personal trainers. Now, I don't know if everyone who was a personal trainer during the pandemic were personal trainers. I hope they were. I know I found a great, I'm so thankful for my personal trainer. She's the bomb. I love her to pieces. I know I found a great personal trainer, all stemming from scrolling, seeing all the BBL bodies, knowing that, number one, I didn't want to go through those procedures to get that. That's number one. I wasn't going under the knife. At that point in time, I had no kids, no nothing. Like, there's no reason for me to do that. I just wanted someone who I can show them a target, a realistic target, and they can help me achieve that, right? So that's also something that came out of the illusion of the feet, the perfect silhouette, the perfect body. High achievers, overly high achievers, you're only seeing when someone succeeds. Again, we know no one wants to always show their failures or show, the steps they took to get there. But that's all we saw. And again, there are many people who would use some form of common sense and logic and know that they didn't just wake up and be and achieve these things. But there were those who would look at these social media posts and take it to heart and took it as if it was the reality, and that severely impacted their lives. So there were people that I've known personally, and then you would hear of individuals as well. We don't really see a lot of behind the scenes. Lately, as I previously stated, we're seeing some people come out and say, we're not gatekeeping anymore. This is real life. This is what it really means. On a lot of influencer channels, when we see the clean with me. I know one time I watched an influencer's video of clean with me, and I was like, damn, this is that messy? How'd it get that bad? But I remember sometimes when I, had those moments, because a lot of times when you're looking for something to wear, if you had wardrobe malfunctions, you're just pulling things out your closet. You're just pulling things out. You're trying shoes. You're throwing the shoes there. You're throwing the bag there. So it just like that, it could become a clean with me nightmare, right? So lately, we've been seeing more behind the scenes. We've been seeing some people come and cry on social media to show that it's just not all rainbows and sunshine, right? We've seen some influencers get outed for some scams. A lot of people, that's the other thing that gave rise during the pandemic, because we were so pushed, for lack of a better term, towards social media, towards the World Wide Web. There became a greater increase. I'm going to say greater increase because the scammers were always there. There were all these different forms of scamming going around. But now, when the pandemic hit and everyone was limited to social media or the internet, the scammers, their versions increased. So we saw a lot of people getting outed after the pandemic, or a few years after the pandemic, for scams that they did during that time. A lot of influencers, or a lot of people who present happy, perfect relationships, they're getting ousted because they just can't fake it anymore. And people can only pretend for so long. For individuals who are sincerely living that type of successful life where it's true happiness, there's sincerity, they're truly living a fabulous, happy life, and they're really achieving this, and this is what is truly happening in their life. Those you can't fake. You can't put on the facade. But for those individuals who, they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, the layers start peeling back real quickly. Because they're unable to maintain it. I know I've posted photos. I can think of two that comes to mind. I went on a vacation one time, and we were arguing right before we took this really great photo in front of a statue. But I'm like, listen, let's go take this photo, then we can argue about this later. Even with group trips, I know that there are your group friend trips where, you take your group photo, but y'all probably just had a big old argument. Those are just some of the most simplest examples that I'm using to show that there's an illusion to what we see from some of the individuals on social media. Again, not everyone, because some people are really truly living this life. So we really need to be mindful of that. And I know that there are some of us who are using a modicum of logic, common sense, analytics, and judgment. And so we know that some of the things we see on social media are not all real, but there are individuals, those, our younger generation, who are easily convinced or manipulated or swayed by those things, and they might think that this is how it is and this is how they have to be. They have to be perfect. They have to have a certain silhouette. At one point, everyone was doing the same face, and not even in makeup trends. I'm talking about plastic surgery. Everyone's face started looking the same. Where's your individuality? Right? Even, about a year or two ago, some people who did BBLs came out with their worst BBL story, or worst decision of my life, or I regret doing this, or whatever it is, right? So this is just to show, and again, this is not to say to get whatever procedure you want to get into your body. Do what you want to do. This is not about that, right? This is really just to remind all of us that what we see on social media is not always real. Again, there's a 1% of those that are, but there are many who are not, right? Because at some point, we always see a video of someone coming, I had to take a break from this, or this is what's really happening, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of times we hear them say that, my subscribers or my followers like when I'm more real and authentic and I show real life, my real day to day. Okay? So that leads me into the comparison trap. So for many of us, and I say us because again, guilty of this as well. Many of us, when we start scrolling on social media, we end up into a mindless, endless abyss of scrolling. We just scroll. And sometimes we have a legitimate reason to go onto social media because nowadays many of our businesses, if not all of our businesses, have a social media presence. So many times we do have a legitimate reason to be on social media. But we can easily, within a second, forget why we went on there, okay? Present company included, and just start scrolling. So it starts with, okay, I see my friend posted. Let me click, or whomever, it could be someone I follow. Let me click on their page. Let's see what it's about. Within their page, they may have reposted someone else's post that has a link to another page. Okay, so let's click on that. And so it begins. It never ends. Then we forget why we went on there in the first place. Then we begin to subconsciously, some people subconsciously, and then others just overtly compare themselves to the profiles of individuals they see on social media. Again, those individuals may have had a crappy day, but chose to find one good moment, one great photo, one great meal shot to post on their page, right? And we end up scrolling and we end up comparing, and we forget that, again, this is just a moment in time. We lose so much time doing that, we end up maybe missing deadlines, missing appointments, messing up time management because now we've wasted time scrolling. I'm not saying scrolling is a bad thing because we all do it. We all have moments where we go into that endless scrolling, where we go into the abyss of scrolling. We all have it. But should it be to the point where we lose time? And should it be to the point where it becomes now a detriment to other things that we want to do? Again, I'm speaking from personal experience. I've had moments where I'd get on my phone, I'd go onto my Instagram because I've saved a post that I wanted to go back to, that I wanted to get information from. Similarly with TikTok or Facebook or YouTube, and then that's it. Easily an hour. It could be an hour or two before I look up and I realize, oh my goodness, I've wasted an hour doing this, and what have I gained? Nothing. I've gained nothing. Recent example. I think maybe just about a month ago, one of the influencers whom I watch, and I like her, I really like her. She met a milestone. She achieved a milestone in, one of her goals and things that she had set for herself. And I was so happy for her. But at the same time, there was a sadness that came over me because that happiness that I had for her triggered in me, where are goals you have? Have you met your goals? This person is talking about the goal. Now you're sad because you realized you haven't met your goals, right? So you're sitting here watching someone else achieve their goals. How often do you sit and watch someone else achieve their goals? Your watch is contributing to them achieving their goals. How are you attributing or contributing to you achieving your own goals? So that just triggered me like, wait a minute, hold on now. Let's take a step back. What is the difference between this individual and me? Why they are reaching their goals or they're working and making progress toward their goals? And the difference could be And also, once again, we don't know. Maybe they do procrastinate, but we just don't see their procrastination on screen. Okay, but some of the difference, again, and I'm giving you an example of my personal experience. So when I took a step back and I looked at this individual, looked at myself, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. What's wrong with you? Why you ain't reached your goals yet? What are you doing or not doing that you should do? So outside of the things that we can't control, we need to always make sure that we're keeping in alignment with the things that we have set for ourselves. So let's not compare ourselves to the other person. We can be happy for them. There's nothing wrong with being happy and cheering for the other person. But in doing that, don't put yourself to the back burner, or don't say, I can't achieve that. Or, well, she's been doing this, or they've been doing this for X number of years, or they have access to this. But, everyone may take a different road or a different direction to get to their goal. But as long as you work and get to your goal, right? We don't want the comparison trap of social media to make us think that we're less than, or to make us think that we can't achieve what they have. Social media is a tool, and we need to utilize it for that. So what that said to me is, I need to step my game up, right? I need to go back to my list. I don't make resolutions. I don't believe in resolutions. I just review my goals that I have, see where I am on my list, what have I accomplished, add new goals if I've accomplished everything, and then take it from there and work to achieve that. So what are our impediments? Okay, are we not setting deadlines? Are we not taking courses we need to take to achieve our goals? Are we not allocating the correct amount of time to various tasks so that we could meet our goals? What is it that we're not doing that we need to do, right? Because maybe we do need to be in that 1% where our life is so fabulous consistently. But there are still things that we may need to work on. So we don't need to get so bogged down with the comparison culture that comes with social media, because it may not happen directly. And it may not even happen in the moment you're watching that person's page. It could happen later on. You don't realize it's now a seed has been planted. And now you're going to be like, oh, well, that's why I didn't do it. And then we blame ourselves instead of saying, okay, you know what? Congrats to this person. Where am I? Am I doing everything that I need to do, right? So for me, that situation, that triggered me to check myself. That triggered me to say, go back, check your list, review list, check it twice. Where you at? What you need to work on? Why haven't you done that? So do we even do any type of self-reflection, introspection? Do we even do that? Do we spend time alone to actually see where we are in whatever, right? Because that's sometimes what you need to do. Spend some time, quiet the noise, and spend some time into your life and focus on that. So I'm going to lead right into some things that I do to avoid being caught in this trap of mindless, endless scrolling, comparing myself to individuals that are on social media, being happy for them and celebrating them, because you know what? It's not easy. These few episodes that I've done here on this podcast, this is a lot for me. Imagine those individuals who are YouTube influencers sharing their entire life. They have to put, snippets of their life, I should say. They put the cameras in different angles, and all these different things. That's a job for them. right? Imagine someone who also has a 9 to 5, has a family, and has to also do social media or some aspect, right? So we don't need to compare ourselves to anyone, because every single person is running their own race and doing what it is that works for them. So yeah, cheer for the person, root for the person. Great. It doesn't mean you're less than. It doesn't mean that you can't accomplish that or whatever it is that you want to accomplish, right? So some things that I do that I'm going to read through my list. So here's how I avoid the pitfalls of the mindless scrolling in comparison. Number one, I unplug. When it gets to the point where, someone's making me sad, and not they're making me sad, but when something is triggering either sadness or hurt, I want to unplug from that, because I need a moment. I need to evaluate. Why are you sad? Why is this making you sad? Let's unplug. Let's get away from this for a second. It's not giving me what I need. So that's the first thing I do. If there are accounts or people that make me feel bad about myself or I just don't like, I unfollow, I unsubscribe, I block. I don't want their ads. I don't want any part of it. There is a new marketing skill, and I don't know if it's a skill or if it's just reverse psychology that they think is going to work, where I've seen ads on Instagram where the individual is kind of insulting you. So I had a vocal trainer, and she would use the word compliment. So that where someone is insulting you and masking it with a compliment. And so when I see some of these ads, that's what I think of. So for example, someone probably works in finance and they say something like, I can help you fix your credit, but you're so stupid, you're gonna keep scrolling and not subscribe. I'm actually going to block you. I'm actually going to tell Instagram, don't show me your ads anymore. That doesn't work for me. That type of marketing may work for someone else, but don't insult me and think I'm going to come to you for help. Because you might have that same attitude when you're working with me, that same condescending, I can help you if you listen to me. Nah, you could kick rocks at that. That's okay. Someone else could receive that, but that's not me. That's an example of me not allowing things in my social media feed that I don't want to see. So I'll tell Instagram, I'm not interested in these ads. Don't send me that. Any platform where you're trying to get my business, but you have an insult in there, I'm not interested. No, thank you. So that's just an example. Spend time with your loved ones and the people that you love. Spend time with the people who love you and that you love, right? Don't be around people who you think might not like you think might have an issue with you, or said some shady, snide comment last week and it's rubbed you the wrong way, even though they may have put an LOL at the end. Y'all know, we know who those are. Yeah, you don't want to be around them, don't. You don't need lengthy conversations, don't. Right? Spend time around the people that you love and that who love you back and who feeds your soul, right? Where even if you haven't spoken to that individual for a while, when you meet, it's as if no time has been lost. And then spend time with yourself. As I mentioned earlier, do you spend time with yourself? Do you know your likes and dislikes, or you're so used to being around others that you've kind of quieted your voice? Spend time with yourself. Do hobbies that are offline. I mentioned earlier that I loved going to the movies. I would always go to the movies, even in high school. In high school, I would go sometimes after school, after work, because I would work. I started working in high school when I got my working papers. I still love going to the movie theater. Solo dating isn't new. I mean, it's now being shown on YouTube and social media a lot. But solo dating isn't new. Solo dating has been around. Solo traveling has been around. So do things that you love, that feeds your soul, right? You want to balance social media and your real life. You don't want social media to determine how your real life goes. You make that determination. I remind myself that my journey is different, and I remind myself that what's meant for me will never pass me. I have the caveat that as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, what's meant for me is never going to pass me, right? So those are some of the things that I do to help me manage and balance social media in real life, because social media is not going anywhere. It's here to stay, right? So we want to make sure that we're not stuck in a comparison thing, because it's so easy. And then, while there's scientific research has been done on scrolling and that dopamine reward effect. So this is a real thing, and it impacts us. A lot of times we don't know how much this social media has impacted us, and I'm not trying to ban or bash social media. We all use social media. It's not going anywhere. But I think we need to use social media for the resource and the tool that it is. Those of us who own businesses, or those of us who need information, use social media for that tool. So social media is a great tool. It's a great resource. It connects us, it entertains us, it makes us laugh, it helps us meet our goals, it helps us to do better and be better when used appropriately. So everyone's journey, again, I think I've said this throughout the episode today, everyone's journey is different. Don't let social media make you think that your life is not worth it because it doesn't fit the aesthetics that we see. Your aesthetic is different. It's an aesthetic. It may not be the one that's presented, but it's your own aesthetic, okay? Let it be used as a tool that you can add value to your life, okay? So, income generator, as we've seen. However, don't allow social media to determine the value of your life. Let social media be used as a resource. It does not determine your value. Okay? Thank you so much for your time. If you can relate to today's topic or know someone who might be interested, please share, please subscribe, please comment. Next week, we'll be talking about the hustle culture and how the 24/7 grind is not the flex that it used to be. Thank you again. Bye for now.